Hello, I'm Gavin Hoey from gavtrain.com and this is Creative Lightroom. This week I'm going to show you how to make some light leak effects in Lightroom 5. Now, way back in the days of film, which for me was, well, just a very long time ago, occasionally I'd get a bit of light leak on my photos and sometimes it would look really good. They were pretty rare times. Most of the time it would look terrible because you had no control. But in Lightroom, we can create a light leak effect that we can control the picture it's on, obviously, the size, the color, and the brightness. That means that making a light leak is a very creative effect, and it works wonders with your vintage or retro style images. It's also dead simple to do. If you can use the graduated filter, you can make a light leak in seconds. So on screen here I've actually got a picture with a light leak. In fact, it's got two. There's a small one here on the left hand side and a large one that goes all the way around the right hand side. They're made in exactly the same way but using two different effects. The first one uses the graduated filter and the right hand side uses the new radial filter in Lightroom 5. I'll show you how to do both. So let's start with the graduated filter. The graduated filter, this means it can be done inside of Lightroom 4 as well as Lightroom 5, same technique. So all I need to do is just to get the graduated filter. And first thing I'm going to do is reset all of these sliders. So whatever they're on, it doesn't matter. Double click on the effects slider and everything gets reset to 0. Now to start with, all I'm going to do is increase the temperature and the tint. And then I need to decide on my picture where this light leak is going to go. And I reckon it's going to come down here on the left hand side. So all I'm going to do is click and drag a long soft gradient out like that. And it really is quite a large one. Now we're actually going to make 3 gradients. So this is the first of 3 and they will all be slightly different. But for now I'm actually going to tweak it a little bit further by increasing the saturation and coming to my highlights and bringing those all the way down to -100. And my shadows all the way up to +100. So I end up with quite a flat contrast by doing that, but that replicates the light leak effect, and the saturation means I get a strong red color, just like I would with a light leak. Okay, now I'm going to add another one of these graduated filters, so I'll click on the new. We're going to add 3 in total, so this will be number 2. Again, I'm going to double click on the word effect. This time I'm going to take the temperature all the way up to maximum, but the tint all the way down to minimum. Temperature 100, tint -100. Then I'm going to come in behind that first graduated filter and drag a second one. But this one's not going to be quite as big. This is going to be a much shorter graduated filter, and I'm going to change the angle so it's not at the same angle as the first one that we actually dragged. And that's important. You don't want these things to be exactly the same one after another. You want a little bit of a roughness to this. So something like that. Now having done that, I can tweak the exposure just to control how bright I want that yellow part to be, and I reckon probably about an extra stop looks about right. Okay, last one. I'm going to click on the new button and double click on the word effect, reset everything, and this effect is just going to be the exposure, and I'll bring my exposure up about 2 stops. And then I'm going to come in behind those first 2 graduated filters and drag my last one. Again, this is going to be a short one, and again the angle is going to be unique for this graduated line. Now I can tweak the exposure and I can decide how much I want to burn out, how much of a light leak effect do I want, and it'll vary from picture to picture and even setting to setting. It'll look different if I put the lines in a different position. But I reckon around about there, actually about 2 stops wasn't far out, so there looks pretty good, just over 2 stops. Then click on the Done button, and there's my light leak in place. So I've created one light leak inside of Lightroom. But if you've got Lightroom 5, there's a new way that you can do this, and it adds a much more greater realism to your light leak. Originally, with the graduated filter, you'd have a straight line, but now we've got the radial filter. That means you can have a nice curved light leak. The technique is exactly the same. All I need to do is switch over to the radial filter, and then double click the word effect to reset everything. And it is literally exactly the same. Let's move the temperature and the tint to +100. You will find you need to zoom out quite a long way so you can see what's happening, but I'm just going to drag a little graduated radial filter out like that, and we'll move it across. Now you'll notice I've got it well away from the other 3 sides. I only want this effect on the right hand side, and we can even bring it in a little bit like that. And then we can increase the saturation, bring down the highlights, open up the shadows, and there you go. Okay, let's make another one. We'll click on the new button and double click on effect. This time it's temperature high, tint low, and repeat the exact same steps. Now, one thing you might notice with the radial filter is it's really hard to tell where things are, especially when you're zoomed out like this. So one trick is just to bring the feathering down to 0, and I'm going to bring my exposure up, and now I can actually see that much clearer where this is going to go. Once you've got it in place, change the feathering, but remember it feathers forwards or into what you've just done, so make sure you don't go too far, otherwise you might wipe out all that red. Okay, let's go one more. We'll click on the new button and double click on effect, and this one is just the extra exposure, so we'll just add that in, we'll drag that out, again keeping well away from the other sides, but again I'll just bring the feathering down so I can control where it's going to go, and we can bring this in just so we affect those edges, just like that. There you go, done. Click on the done button, fit it onto the screen, and there you have it, a light leak that looks absolutely wonderful there on the right hand side, or a dead straight light leak on the left hand side. The choice is yours. Both look fantastic and both are dead simple to create. Now if you want to find out more about me, don't forget to visit my website at www.gavtrain.com, or join me back here next week for another creative Lightroom episode. I'm Gavin Hoey, thanks for watching.